I'm feeling really frustrated this afternoon. In fact, I got up nice and early this morning compared to usual. And I've been eating really well lately. My legs feeling pretty good. Finding it more and more comfortable. Power's been going on an awful lot, which has been really interesting. It's got a few things going through my head that I think about with regard to survival and what happens if scenarios, right? It's not why I started this video. It's because I'm frustrated that I started it. I'm almost packed up to go outside, but I got some food that I've been cooking. Like from past experience, you don't leave anything on the stove, period, without being right there to attend to it, like within line of sight. I found for safety reasons in the condition I'm in and the situation I'm in, and looking back in my life, it's like, wow, was I ever lucky I relied on those appliances that had safety mechanisms, because I would have, we burned stuff, right? Some people burnt water and ended up wrecking their pans and causing fires because of everything gets all heated up over a period of time and pump that much energy in an environment without dissipating it is a problem. So I try to have it so mostly I turn the power off on any of the electrical appliances that produce heat, other than, say, lights. And even then, I'm taking chances. And leading up to this, I was watching videos on a father with a couple of young boys that, they're his children. And he goes out bushcrafting with them and makes these mini houses for them. First of all, they're camping in like the residential kind of campground. There's these transitions from the normal house that people live in today, as you will, through these different stages until finally they're in the woods building these bushcraft shelters and showing all the work going into it. And I looked at the interaction between the father and the son, or the sons, and I think they had one of their little friends with them too at the same time. But regardless, it was really endearing to watch. And for the first time, I thought, now I understand why parents like having kids. And the way he dealt with it, I thought, was absolutely wonderful. He wasn't telling them what to do. He just took them out and showed them and let them play. Just let them play, find their own fun. When they were hungry, he fed them. He tried to keep it so they weren't suffering in any way. Very entertaining, but he got on with his work. A few times he had to go back to the, man's world, as it were, because he hurt his back, shoulder injury, wrist injury. I mean, I've been there. We've all been there that have been working on this. And he gets recovered and goes back. And I started considering what keeps driving you back. And as a parent, I could see the attachment to something like that, because I remember my dad taking me out and doing stuff like that. And watching this video, it made me think how awesome he must have felt when he was catching fish and feeding his three boys. Sometimes my sister was with us, but not very often. See, girls had to do certain things, guys had to do certain things. It was like, whatever. But the point is, I have this gift of knowing now what my dad must have felt during those times. And it's like, even when I pulled my nose and he'd pull out a piece of rye bread with peanut butter, it's like, well, we got this as backup. It's like, we were never left without totally, okay? We might have went hungry a few times, but not starving. And there's a lot of benefit in that. And as I watched this father on the video, it's called the Outdoor Boys or something like that. Later, I'll provide the link. And I'll do that on Facebook, because that's where most of my work gets done. I've chosen YouTube today because, well, it gives me a little more buffering for contemplation, if you will. Whereas if I just go Facebook Live, it is a different kind of dynamic takes place, and I don't have the same kind of, put it this way, I'm using the tools effectively as I see fit, okay? Just leave it at that. So through all this, I'm thinking, okay, I can see why this guy's got the passion to go out there and do this, because there's these young lads that I think, okay, in Boy Scouts, if they had scoutmasters like this guy that I'm talking about, holy shit, that would have been freaking awesome. He's not out there telling them how to do basket weaving or serving them horrible pancakes. Like, he's out there in the bush, and it's fun. You're not like in a controlled, structured familiar environment. You're going out into the edges of, hey, wait a minute, this might be a little creepy, but I've got safety net here. These people that know what they're doing, and they make you feel comfortable in that environment and show you the ways back to nature. I'm living on the edge of the Boy Scout camp. I'm thinking, wow, there's some ideas going through my head about how this could be done. I see so much potential here. Seeing that other people are doing it, and even if it's just one or two in the neighborhood, okay, fine. That's a start. Let's take a look and see, does it work? How far does it go? Like, what are the benefits? What are the downfalls of it? Like, we're kind of, as far as I can see in the video he was portraying, which, you know what? Oh, I already got rid of it. Shit. While I'm on here, I thought, why not just try posting it and I know it's done. But like usual, just before you try putting a live video together, you get all these weird glitches. Okay, there we go. Outdoor Boys. It's not the video I was looking at, but it is the website. And it's a YouTube website. So I put that into the chat. And later I'll put that into the comments below because I'm still learning how to do this myself. And I encourage anyone that's interested in like the work I do. I'm sure you're all just fascinated by it. Check out some of the videos on this. I'm not going to recommend any in particular. Just see what you find. I think it's a wonderful example for the male parents out there that have kids, and you're wondering, what can I do today to help them to enjoy life a little bit more? And what I've seen here, I think, as a youngin', looking back and the way my dad did things, we go fishing. I mean, there's one clip where he shows backing up into the bush, and it's like all the mosquitoes all over. You got bites all over. You know, you get back and mom's like, what the hell have you done? Blah, 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 blah. But those kids are out there experiencing exactly what dad experienced, to provide the fish and the food to feed the family, to actually put the energy in to actually acquire what is needed. And going rock hunting with my dad and things like that, he was so fucking primal. You know, I remember once we were out, we were supposed to have a lovely barbecue and he forgot to bring the barbecue. I don't know if he did or not. I think looking back, he probably deliberately did it. But regardless, it was forgotten. We got to the place and everyone's all disappointed. And dad goes, what? Just a minute. He goes over and gets his garbage can lid that's sitting down the beach, comes back, puts it on the fire, burns it off, puts some sand on, washes it out in the lake, burns it again, just waits a few minutes till it's going red hot. All right, now he cools it off a bit by lifting it up, throws all our food on it. One of the best barbecues ever. You know, we forgot the tinfoil. Okay, put the potatoes right on like this, and we'll use sticks to turn them over and things like that, you know. And what I seen this guy doing today, he was basically the same kind of persona with his kids out there. And listening to their reactions really warmed my heart. It gave me a little bit of encouragement and hope. Now, having said that, I've been sitting here for days thinking I got to get back on the bike so my knees will work again. Well, this time last year, I could barely walk. At least I can walk right now. I could probably get down to the valley and move around a bit. And if I take it easy, I could probably get my knees working as good as I did with a bike and just use that as necessary transport when I need to go onto man's roads, okay? I'm just thinking out loud here, if you will, and sharing that with you because I'm seeing a pattern everywhere. And it's like, if we don't share some of these stories, other people aren't going to know that they're having an effect on others. And it maybe makes a lot of us really shy about what we have to say. If you're triggered by someone and you see a video by anybody, what fucking soever, that makes you feel alive or want to say something else, if you get to the point where you actually click that button that says go live and do it, then I got to give a big cheers to you because you know what? You're the kind of people that I value having around me. Not that I don't value the others that don't do that. Oh my God, I just realized that might sound bad. But No buts about it. All lives matter. And, when you think about it, are any of the people around you really enemies? Like, we all have some purpose in this equation we're in. And what we got is each other. We're on a boat together, and there's no getting out of it. We start throwing people overboard, there's a bigger and bigger and bigger deficit, right? So what we need to do is get back to things that are sustainable. I started looking at, the permaculture stuff, and we got these big bulldozers coming and building big swales and making huge alterations to the landscape. Now, notwithstanding, there is a time and place for that. And I think there's some careful consideration got to be given to how that is manifest, right? But like I seen in a recent video, we go out and work the land and clear it by hand. By hand. Maybe you got some hand tools. These are things that potentially you could have made from things in the forest already. And most of you that have gone through taking a shovel and rake out there have realized there are analogies in the forest where, okay, that's the equivalent of, it's a lot of work, but to get it done right now, I'm using this. I've already got it. I paid the price. The debt is already there, whatever, okay? And I'm giving it back when I'm done, because everything we take from Earth remains on Earth. We can't really take anything from it. And I considered how much these huge tractors that weigh the equivalent of hundreds of people. If you think about all the lives that go into the energy made or used to make that tractor, that bulldozer, that machinery. And we all use these power tools in our society to literally decimate forests and put up subdivisions and whatever you want to call it. Put up all fancy names, okay? These are new housing projects, whatever. But the bottom line is the trees get chopped down in ways that you could never do by hand once upon a time. So without really realizing what we're doing and how to make structure, and that's why I think it's important you look at the video I mentioned from the Outdoor Boys. It's literally a father with his two young sons, I think 3. I'm not sure. I'm only just using that as an example because that's what inspired this video. I didn't even look into it. I'd seen enough and was like, all right, there, I know what I got to say. And again, if you got to sit down and write a script, okay, that's cool. That's like a prepared message. I think that's being a politician. But if you want to be a live participant in the front wave of creation of real development, these are the conversations we need. So when I've gotten information like I'm doing right now from other people, that I get the most inspired. And I think inspiration is something we all need. It gives us hope, because that kindles our own internal spirit of creativity, which allows us to add to that equation potentially. And right there is the hope. It's like maybe the answer lies within, not the answer, but the answer to this piece of the equation so that the others can finish their part. And together, we're going to put it together. Did that sound right? I've had a lot of very interesting things to me anyway happen. And each of them as I put in context, especially because I'm in a very, very, I guess, relaxed position in life right now. I used to hang on to the idea of having the perfect home and everything looking just prim and proper. And I forgot about function and comfort. As I focused on that, in a way, life has gotten a lot easier. And the pressures I face now, although equally challenging, are not as debilitating, because the nature of them is leading to a better place. And I feel that's why it's not draining me as much. Now, in the video from this Outdoor Boys, he goes out there to get things ready for his boys, and he's all alone in the forest. And he says, it's rain coming down. It's a nice challenge. And he's alone in the camp. And you can see the difference in dynamic. I thought it was so genius that they showed this because it captures something I want to relay to people too about what it's like. And so I will be following up on this on Facebook with some supporting data, etc., and here on YouTube too. I got different kind of audiences on both, so we address it differently. Um, he says, when I'm in this abode here, he says, if my boys were here, this would be like, oh yeah, we're having a great night. Because like you get out there and he's got a challenge now, how to make food out in the rain. Or we're inside this mosquito infested hut. How do we get rid of the mosquitoes? Or it's leaking. What do we do now? I remember camping with my dad, and all of a sudden the tent would rip or the canopy would go down or something would happen. And oh, we got to deal with this now. It's the middle of the night. It's pissing down rain. And you know what? We used to have a good time. We'd laugh. It'd be fun. It's memorable. 3/4 of my life later, I'm statistically 2 to 3 years or 2 years, year and a half away from my statistical. That's generally when you're going to die thing. Okay. And any that aren't there, you'll figure it out later. It's like you'll get your warning. Um, don't fret it. It's the best thing that could ever have happened to you. So what gives you the passion to go out there and do what you do? I don't want to sit in here doing videos. We'll address why I do them later. Right now, that video I seen with that guy and his kids out there, I thought, well, he didn't like it because he was alone. And you could see that when the kids were there, I mean, they were worried about where to poop in the woods. So he ends up starting a project on building a toilet outside. And it was genius what he did. I'd never thought of doing it that way, but it's like, yes, it answers a question. So I'm inspired. I want to go out and do that. But the area I'm working on out there is under threat from the landlord, unfortunately, due to whatever fears, okay? Whatever, right? So there's a certain amount of instability and insecurity there. And when you've got that, you tend to not want to do anything. But at the same time, it's like, well, if you don't start just doing it, it ain't going to happen. And right now, I've got a little trail that I've built. And I've been maintaining it now for several years. And this year, I actually have been neglecting it just a little bit more than I should have. At the same time, physically, I feel I've been unable to do more than I've been doing. And I've been learning things inside. And I've got it so in here, although a mess, an absolute mess, is comfortable enough. I'm able to maintain enough personal hygiene to at least be able to go in public without being completely offensive. And I don't know if family just can't smell anymore, but unless I've had a night where it's been unusually hot in here, and sometimes it gets that way. When the air goes really dead outside, and I'm in my little bedroom here, back here, I've got it all padded with all kinds of insulation now, basically fabric that people have been throwing away. And I've got about this much garbage that I just throw on the floor, and I put a blanket over it. When it gets covered, I pick the blanket up, throw it over the garbage, keep walking on it. It packs down, packs down, packs down, packs down. And I can pull it out later in little slabs. I've got like little tiles. And there's an amazing amount of dirt somehow accumulates in it. And I've noticed I can grow some incredibly robust vegetation in it. This is all part of an ongoing process indoors in a situation that's just a little bit off of what the mainstream would consider acceptable. The next step is you're actually in the forest. And right now, I've got areas out there where I do bury my shit. I don't want my shit just spewed all over the place. I kind of like the idea of putting it in a hole in the ground and maybe later coming back and building a fire pit over it where I get a trickle of methane, like a very, very small fire thing over it, okay? And you got methane, maybe, I don't know, okay? The potential's there, okay, with the information I have. But for now, it's like there's an accepted method. However, it does leach out and flood all over if there's enough rain. Now, animals don't put all their shit into a hole in the ground they generally poop under certain trees, along certain pathways where it gets mashed in to the ground and turns into like a, well, compost. I mean, with enough vegetation growing along there, it just keeps churning in. There's a certain natural evolution of things that takes place that, unless you're out in the woods for extended periods, I don't think I don't know how you could portray to anyone what actually takes place. I'm hoping somebody out there has done the work on it and can do that. Because when I see it, I'll definitely back it up because I've seen the process out there. Okay, I know what it is. And then you come back, and the biggest problem is trying to deal with people that have no concept of how things work in nature. They project all kinds of things they've heard on TV, and so says, and the authorities say, and yet none of these authorities have ever gone out and are working with first-hand knowledge. And that part is the most difficult challenge I've ever faced in life. The lack of people in my life that have first-hand knowledge of the things we're talking about. And I got a message on one of my Facebook chats the other day. I'm going to come back to this. I'm not sure I'm going to tie it in, but it was from someone that I thought was an admin for a fan group for Selena Gomez, okay? And when I seen them promoting a lot of money stuff and like, get Cash App and we'll send you this, and I seen what I thought were scams, I thought, all right, I'll check this out because that's part of what I do is like just a hobby on the side, right? And I get a message back where she says outright, or whoever it is says outright, look, I'm Selena Gomez. But of course, why would she be asking for $500 so she can get a plane ticket to come visit me in a coffee shop that I haven't even mentioned yet? And like, there was a lot of fucked up weird shit in that, okay? So I kind of looked at it like, all right, we're having fun online. Let's not be too objectionable, but of course, I got a little bit of flack from it. And in the end, I just smiled and I kind of walked away, saying, if I'll never contact you again unless you contact me. But I know there's a secondary scam page. Now, I'm not out to officially report this to anyone. I'm telling a story, so I'm not giving any details yet. I think I'll leave it at that, okay? Give you a little bit of a, what's that about? How does that fit in? I'll get back to that in another video. I think I just hit the score there. I'll give you a clue about building a story. How does that tie in with this guy and his outdoor boys? Well, I've been building a shelter outdoors. It's totally different than anything I've seen anywhere on the internet. And it's like a meshmore blend of like, you're in a big white house and all of a sudden into a trailer in a barn, and you fall into the ground, you're into this little cave underground. It's all built like a fucking mouse house. And it's got tunnels through it. There's no flat spots. It's just tunnels all over. But within that, there's these areas where if you know what to do and you know it's your place, it's like, look, that's where I just lay down right there. When you see the bed that's the right shape for you, how do you line it? How do you shape it? How do you develop it? If all we know is these square patterns in our 9-to-5 job homes that I call coffins, at the end of the day, all of us are yearning for something. And although we think we know what it is and money will solve it, or if that person dies, it will solve it, or if only God would answer my prayer, or maybe I got to do breathing exercises. I'm not doing enough exercise. I should eat more bananas. It's the wrong makeup. Maybe I need a different deodorant. Like, we get hung up on things that are just like completely irrelevant. And we miss the main point. Who are we? What are we doing here? Like, really think about it. I know it's not easy if you've got, a job, family, friends, people that are always engaged in activity in some sort of frenzy, and to even recognize that you're in that frenzy, unless you get the opportunity to come out and look at it from, like right now, I see it in everyone. I have to smile, because if I didn't, I'd cry my eyes out. Maybe that's why I was in pain for a long time. I don't know. But I start to see that there's a benefit to everything and everyone. So I will be going outside, and I'm going to take my rake and my shovel with me. I'm going to take a little bit of food with me. I've prepared a little bit here already. I've just turned the oven off just before I got online here, because I had to stay here for that. And I thought, if I'm here anyway, okay, I may as well do a quick video to make sure. And it's only about a minute's hike away or less, because the way the crow flies is nothing, but I've got an obstacle course that I've built in order to get down there, okay? So I've got this shelter built on quite a steep slope on a mud hill, with the majority of trees dying. Now, part of my proposal is to start slowly clearing out those dead trees, pulling the vines down to the ground, cutting them back a bit like grapes so that they form a better ground cover, but clearing up the ground first, okay, and taking all that debris and biomass and putting that into my little shelter as the flooring. So as I walk over it each day, forming my path, it's macking down, and it's macking into the mud. It's now coming down through the area on top that I've built, where the natural landscape flow will gently just trickle down, okay? You think that's nothing, but that's because we're not looking at it. When you've got just a little dwelling that's like the size of what you can handle yourself, you start noticing that extra 6 inches of dirt that accumulates over here every 4 years or every year. In some places, the land literally seems to just like bulge out. It just seems to start heaving up, and it's like, wow, this is pretty cool. So you get to know these little nuances of the landscape. You get to know your land. And it's took a long time. I mean, we're talking close to 10 years now, and I've pretty well sealed it. I've got a walking path like any animal would have, not just in my trailer and in my little abode here, but as I go outside, and there are very few paths that go off it. The ones that branch off it are the ones to get me to different destinations in the forest, and they're literally like crow flies, just a beeline to, like, that's the fastest way there. And none of them are a straight line. There's a lot of zigzags and loopity-loop, because even though it's maybe to get from here to here is only several feet, the landscape might dictate that you've got to go 25 feet over here, 30 feet down here, 10 feet back up, and then 20 feet across. Like, we work with what the land presents, right? I think, we go down there and I sweep up all that debris along the path that I walk, and I bring that into my abode. Now, I've actually swept that path and done this several times, and it seems to make no difference. Like, it just disappears. It's almost like I keep doing all this work and putting all this stuff there, and it disappears. So I started thinking, what happens if I can create a situation where I start taking some of that debris, mixing it with my crap on the surface in a designated spot? It wouldn't have to be that big. And like an animal, if it's on the surface, I've noticed, I've done experiments where I take literally 5 gallons of my crap over a week or so, and I poured it in a spot open to the air. I've been careful how I've done it with, thing around it, and I put all kinds of sticks and leaves around it, marked it off. And the funny thing is, like, I always do it just before a rainstorm. If I know there's a big, heavy downfall to happen, and where I've got these things, like, because I look at how dog shit works on a lawn. I've studied not just the property I'm on here with, like, what we got 3. I think there's 3 dogs here and 2 cats. One of them is a feral cat and a wild one. We've got a couple of raccoons, lots of squirrels, chipmunks, rabbits, etc. Okay. And in the winter, there's certain paths that are made, and I notice the different kinds of shit that accumulate. It's unbelievable. If you take the time out in the situation I'm in, out in the country in a farm, or on the edge of the farm, and there's a lot of pets. Next door, they got 4 dogs, and I know there's no way they can clean all that shit up on that lawn. And it's running right down into the back. Now, I got no objection to that other than that I think it's wrong to keep animals enslaved. Pet, putting collars on them, yelling at them. How would you feel? Teach their own. My focus is on the earth first. And this does link into the Selena Gomez stuff I mentioned earlier. I got too much invested in this to walk away at this point, and this is the tricky part. So, I had a friend that was talking about the orgy game and who would you have an orgy with and blah, 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 blah. The point isn't about the orgy. She just did that as clickbait because it seemed so out of character for her. I had to check out what she was talking about, and it turned out to be a good laugh, a good joke. And it proved something about, when you know someone, you know it's going to trigger them. You know exactly what to do to get their attention, don't you? At least in that moment you do. Well, that's open to debate in the psychological community and those that are doing different kinds of research on personalities and stuff. I mean, give you something to think about, I'm sure. Meanwhile, what's Dave babbling about with regard to getting outside and sweeping up the path? Okay, there's the forest. When I talk about going outside, I got my little garbage area here, but then as soon as I go over the edge of the hill, that's my area where anything that's man-made, I start bringing back up to the top, and I pile it up and use that as part of my shelter that I'm living in while I get the forest ready. And I've got another friend, this outdoor guy, he's talking about clearing the land with your bare hands. That links into a lot of other stuff with permaculture and other people that have been promoting that, if we just work with our bare hands and with what we can do ourselves, we cannot destroy anything in nature. Anything at all. It's impossible because we are at par with it. The more we try to hurt it, the more it's going to affect us directly and in the now, immediate. The karmic feedback is ping pong, doing, doing. We come into man's world, you can get away with all kinds of shit because it gets buried in the conundrum of numbers and machines. After review, I know I'm going to come back and make comments on what I just said. If I was alone right now, I just start contemplating that, but I do have to get outside. So instead of trying to get on my bike and ride, I'm going to pretend that Selena Gomez is spying on me from the castle over there, and if I don't do the right thing, I don't get the reward at the end of the day. What's the reward? Well, it's a good question. Think about it. Put your comments in the chat. Let's see if we can get a discussion going on what really matters. And I like to mention, but finding what the heart wants. Like as I watched that video with that guy and his 2 boys, and I seen the dichotomy between when he's working by himself versus his couple of kids there. I could see the difference in dynamics. And it's like, yeah. A lot of times we know we can do stuff, but we don't do it because it's no fun by yourself. It's just no fun. Maybe this outdoor stuff isn't fun for a lot of people. Well, that's fine. I'm not pushing nothing on you guys. But don't expect me ever to think that way of what you guys do it. Like, it's nice to have running water. Don't get me wrong, okay? To get into a nice warm shower, oh, it's great. But if you've experienced that in nature already, under a waterfall, even in cold temperature climate like Canada, there's no comparison. And for those of you that are used to chlorinated water, you can't smell how fucking nauseating it is, pardon my language. Some family members, they think that I'm full of shit when they say, but your water stinks. Yeah, well, it's filtered and filtered. Yeah, I know, but you know what? The chlorine is burning my nose sometimes because I'm not exposed to it anymore. Very limited. And you become sensitive to it. one in a million things. I mean, if we didn't have fluoridated water, I'm sure a lot of us would be a lot sicker because of disease and the way we're doing things. But that brings up other issues. How do we learn to do these things in the bushcraft environment where we can find our way back to nature? It's one thing to have videos that say, yeah, do this, 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 and this. And okay, so I'll buy that piece of forest and I'll try and do it. Oh, well, you know what? These are in the way. Oh, the bugs. And they start killing, and they go right back to the same old, same old. And the cancer that I talk about is what starts to invade our green space, our free zone. And for clarity, when I talk about, life should be free, life is free. How dare you charge me to live on a planet I was born on without my permission? I mean, I didn't ask to be here. I'm a guest, and now you're enslaving me? Expecting coins from me? To live on a piece of land I can almost take care of myself if you would stop interfering with me? And I'm not alone on that. I know that's what this trucker shit's all about. That's what the war and fucking in fact, every discrepancy on the planet Earth is all to do with the ability to live on your own, free, unhindered, but also having the knowledge. And then there's people thinking, well, they expect others to give them that because they don't know it. Well, in a way, that knowledge has been, at one time, I would say it was hidden. But in my observation over the years, I believe that it's been forgotten and ignored for something superficial and silly in the end. And I'm hoping that people will, remember who they are, what we're doing here. There is more to life than what we've been taught. And death is not the solution. It just perpetuates it. I mean, think about it, guys. How many times have any of you thought, oh, God, I wish he was dead, or I wish they were dead? You wish death in some way. It's so frustrating. If only. And you're full of lamentations about everything. I know, I've been there. The agony is fucking crazy. I'm not saying I'm free of it. It's all around me. At the end of the day, for the sake of my sanity, not to try and capitalize on poetry that's flowing naturally, that's pretty brilliant. And you think I'd stay up and practice that, right? I hope the clever video editors on Steady Camline and so on. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to pretend I'm out there and I've got this invisible companion called my tablet. See, I'm making up an amulet, trying to get into the wizard's alchemy and create that dichotomy of okay, natural, earth, man's world. There's all these different phases in getting from one to the next. Think about the tunnel from heaven to hell or hell to heaven, and they're just two different destinations. I mean, one of my favorite spots on earth is Hell's Gate. Saba Spice. It's also the gateway to the sulfur caves and some of the best tasting cinnamon leaves I've ever tasted. It's code for only those that know, especially if you're a scuba diver, you'd have been there. You see, a lot of us have information that only a limited number of us have, and every one of us are in situations like that. If we can start harmonizing, connecting the dots, think about what a beautiful place this world could be. I know all the wizards on earth would like to wave their wand. I think every electrician, plumber, construction worker, road worker, anybody in the front line of development of the things that we see in man's world today, including their hydroelectricity, we'd all love to just wave a wand and have everything magically done for you, but it doesn't work that way. There's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, as it were. There's that, physical energy that we dedicate to it. And I'd like to thank the other people out there that you're not taking advantage of this. You're supporting it. Gotcha. Because if you're supporting it, you're supporting something that's destroying Earth. What we need is a different way of doing things, a whole different paradigm, a whole different way of thinking. And to do that, I think we need a lot more people like this gentleman I seen earlier, and I will get his name and post. I've posted the link already, and he's one of a whole stream of them. I've got quite a number of them already lined up in that same category. It's just this is the gentleman that triggered it. I loved the way he was showing how a father could take his boys out there into the forest, and there's no reason the mother couldn't be there and the other kids. And in watching his development of the show, I can see he's leading toward that, which I think is freaking excellent. And I'm willing to bet I'm completely right on that. I've only seen a handful of them, and he's already indicated that's the direction. So I love it. I think it's beautiful. So let's bring this close to home. I live in the Short Hills Park area, Garden City, Canada. Garden City, Ontario, I'm sorry. And hopefully a Garden City of Canada as well. And we have the Boy Scout camp as well that's in the center of the park over here in a very interesting area geographically. The landscape is freaking amazing in this area. It's like going through the Rocky Mountains on a small scale in a way. Very aptly named the Short Hills Park. And make no mistake, climbing up and down some of them, wow, you get some exercise. Might not look like much at first, but you start hiking it, it's a little deceiving. And we got lots of waterfalls, waterways, some beautiful, beautiful areas in here. But at certain times of the year, you swear you're in paradise until you hear the plane fly over, the horns on the highway. You know, there's all these interferences, and sometimes those interferences from man-made stuff are more intense than the ticks and the mosquitoes that attack your body sometimes, or the flies. And for anyone that's been in the outdoors, it's really appreciated in this area. You know what I'm talking about. I've come back with poison ivy rashes, all kinds of things, tick bites and everything. And they were incidental to the frustration I felt that I couldn't find a spot out in this beautiful fucking forest where the water is running crystal clear and it's dead silent. And all I can hear is the rustling of the animals in the brush around me. The indigenous creatures coming through to inquire, "What are you doing here, Dave?" And that takes time. You go into a remote spot in the forest where it's nice and quiet, sit long enough, you'll be amazed. There's like a sequence of animals will come out one after the next. Be prepared to spend a long, long time. Like bring a lunch. Be prepared to just sit there. Move within only a few foot of space. Do very little and observe. And you will find that what I'm saying is true. And I literally do not know anybody yet in person that has ever done that. Sometimes when I talk about the things, the way I see wild animals behave versus domestic, or even what they call wild squirrels within the city limits, wild ones in the forest behave a lot different, and they look different, they move different. There's a whole different dynamic, and that's just one example. And then you even got, I bet you even the earthworms in the forest behave different than the ones in the city. Man's influence, and we talk about energies and symbiotic relationships, harmonics, people think in the same way. It creates a vibration. There's no question about that. Anyone that's got any physics background, knowledge in electromagnetic radiation, especially radio communication, you're going to know exactly, it's like, yeah, duh, right? So I'm going to head out in the woods. Now, it is getting closer to the time when it's dark, and customarily, I find it really hard to get out there and do anything without feeling immensely tired. But as it gets close to twilight, and I love getting out in the sunlight, I really do, but I have to have an excuse. And today I feel I got enough inspired by it. Just for the record, yesterday I was in a psychotically weird good mood, and I couldn't explain why. I felt like there was so many problems going on around me. I literally just shut down and just went, ha, and and I hope I didn't offend any of my friends or family. Um, but I just felt bubbly and weird, and then this morning I got really depressed. Like, boom, ouch. And when I seen this video, it took three of them. By the third one, I was starting to smile, and I thought, you know what? That video this guy did was just enough to get me to go outside and made me think about my brother and some of the complaints he's had with his kids. Not with his kids. Oh my God, it sounded wrong. Some of the complaints he's had with respect to like showing the kids some of the fun things that can be done in nature, because he's a nature boy himself. And he has a hard time getting out there. We all have these issues that prevent us. I got them myself. I'm sitting here on the edge of the forest, and for the last 6, 8 months, I've rarely gone out there. And I'll address this maybe later. There's a lot of reasons. I'll call them all excuses. But it boils down to this in the end, to make it really succinct and short, because there's no one to share it with. It's no fun when you're on your own. So if there's anyone around, I don't care if you're male or female, don't think anything of it, because it's not to do with anything, like, forget anything to do with a sexual relationship, period. This is about, let's just get out there and have some fun in the forest. And I'm enticed by the idea of a female companion to do it, because that would like finish this up perfect. And even if we're not actual compatible partners, we're going to be close enough that we'll find them. We'll have those links. Plus, there's the movie thing I'm working on, the Earthship Solutions stuff, the Earth OS, programming. If I haven't mentioned, I just looked on my monitor over here. And right after Outdoor Boys comes up Paradox Man 316. He passed away, from what I understand, almost a year ago. And I only found out a day or so ago. And I was in the middle of reviewing his videos before I realized, what? I'm looking at the comments. It's like, dude. At first, I was really, really, really sad. Like, I don't know why. Well, I guess I do know why. He's got a beautiful message. And it's like, of all people I've heard express their heart online so openly and share it the way he has. You know, he represented as a Christian. I thought he did it just so beautifully and so honestly. Of all people, it's like, has God let him down? If you're not familiar with it, I'd encourage you also to look up some of the last videos he did in the last year. And I think you'll understand what I'm talking about. He left a number of clues, and I started reflecting, you know, I did a video with him on Twin Flame Partners back in the day, and he talked about, you know, this woman that wanted him to send money so she'd get a plane ticket to come out and see him. And he explained the same thing I did about this character claiming to be Selena Gomez earlier. I mean, the same MO, identical. Now, the funny thing is, I've got another account where whoever this is also on another account. But those two other accounts are connected. And to this point right now, I'm not sure if she knows I'm the same person, but I've been paralleling. So there's some interesting stories that will unfold as we go through this, and they all tie in. They all tie in. But the real focus here is, how do we get outdoors? We're trying to show the dynamics of the sociology, the different transitions we go through, the different mindsets we go through, the different positions we'll end up finding ourselves in, and trying to provide some sort of a map so that there can kind of be a comfort zone, you know, as you traverse through this. Because the more fear we have, the less likely we are. Did I say that right? The less likely we are. I gotta have another drink. My mouth's going dry. To make the right decisions, we're going to be held back. And right now, I think we need more people. Just, you know, even if we make mistakes. I mean, some of us said that in the beginning. We're up here doing what we do because we can fuck up and there's no consequence. We got nothing to lose. Might sound a little desperate, but honestly, I've hit a point in life now where I literally, as they say, have nothing to lose. Nothing. It's already less than gone. Less than gone? More than gone. So I feel like I'm kind of here just for, well, if this works, great. I'll stick around. But if not, adios, senora. So, you want to spy? I'm going to be going outside. I'm going to take my flashlights with me. I plan on working out there tonight. I'm going to move some blocks. There's a big piece of metal fucking culvert piece from the road. I've seen it several times. It's an eyesore. There's a bunch of brick on the side of the hill too. I'm going to kind of slowly move it back up and build kind of a wall or a barrier or a walkway, or at least something that blends into the ground a little more succinctly that I can grow things in. I got one area where I literally dump my shit. I can do that for maybe another week or two, and then it's going to be covered with debris and left alone for a year. These are all in areas with a lot of rainfall that kind of floods across evenly and slowly comes out. Further down the hill, it starts forming into little culverts. So I'm watching the lay of the land, the flows of the water, how things work from season to season. And although I say I haven't spent a lot of time outdoors this year, I've known there's certain times when the temperature changes or the weather pattern, like if there's an unusual amount of rainfall, I generally try to go out. I shouldn't say generally try to. I'm pretty well every time I go outside and observe the transitions that take place. I've been watching over years and years now. Even before I got here, I started way back on a really small scale. Now I'm starting to look at it on a bigger scale with respect to the environment I live in and the long-term effects of everything upstream versus downstream. I'm hoping that these things I'm saying can be tied into other, say, upcoming or in development applications that are also working on some of the similar, see why I say fuck a lot? Paradigms. I don't know what other word to use, but I'm working on it. So right now, I got my backpack almost ready. I've turned off the burner. I'm going to go down the forest, and I'm only saying this because if I don't do what I'm saying right now, I got nothing to follow up on. And I'll give you an example of what I mean. Last night, early, I tried doing a live thing just like I've done now on YouTube, but there was no opening for me to go live, and I didn't realize that. And I didn't look at the timestamp because normally I go almost like within a second or two of hitting it. But this time it was like, no, that's like 6 hours from now. Okay, so it's set up 6 hours from now. All right, I'll go have a nap and then come back and do it. But I didn't realize I'd already gone a little longer than I should have. And when I woke up an hour before the show that was pending, I got the alarms and everything. I woke up and it was like, I can't. I don't feel good. I just can't. My head is swimming. I got all these thoughts. My brain is still trying to work out shit. But whatever it was I was thinking about at that moment, it's gone. And I realized, these planned shows, they're of limited value. I think for the near future, at least. Maybe for shows that go back into time where, like you guys know what I mean about back in time. For those ones, yeah, we can make some, but they'll be done with the edits from other people working different aspects of this operation, right? Meanwhile, for me, I realized I'm going to do very, very few, if any, of those. Like, hey, I'm going to set up a room, I'll advertise it, I'll be there, you guys show up. So from here on in, if I do that, you'll know it's because of something I've got that, all right, hey, everyone, we're not getting, like, I've got something to say at that point. It's making me wonder what I'm doing right now. You see? It'll be something serious, put it that way. It's like, if I do that, please log in. Come and visit. It means I'm calling out to you. How about that? But for now, I'm just going to hit them live, and it's just my diatribe of what I'm thinking and feeling at the time. As far as intention, I guess I'm sharing with you right now my mental process of trying to develop some of the, oh, should I go out? Should I stay in? Should I work on this? Make this look better? Should I do that? Should I be working on food? Maybe I should be working on building a fire pit. Well, right now, there's a shelter down there that doesn't have enough flooring in it that I can walk in it without, it's awkward. If I want to continue working on it and there's like mud there, right? There's loads of mud. And this time of year, the mud just falls apart. It's beautiful. And on the side of the hill, fortunately, where I am, the angle of the sun this time of year on the angle of the hill, the sun, it actually makes the soil warm enough, even when it's actually below freezing out there. It makes it warm enough I can often dig the soil with my own bare hands. Problem is, I'm running into a lot of glass, a lot of metal, car parts, bike parts, household debris, things that were there probably years and years before I ever arrived. So I got to be really cautious about how I go through that. At the same time, I don't want to dig up stuff that is already buried. So I'm trying to take the surface mud, and if there's some big chunks that come up of things that are, I'll bring them and move them back up the hill toward man's world, because that's where the garbage came from. And what happens? It starts breaking down. So I'd never have to really return it to man's world. I just have to put it into this intermediary zone and let nature take its course. Meanwhile, I work the area down below where I'm slowly going to clear out the land of all the dead stuff. And vines that are climbing up on other plants that don't want them there, I'm going to cut them down, let them restart, and train them into areas where they are wanted and can be used and become a benefit. Like a grapevine going up 100 feet just to build a canopy, it's producing so much to get that little bit of energy, and there's nothing up there that eats it, a few birds, but on the ground, it could produce bundles and bundles of grapes that are there all year. So the animals underneath that little canopy, only this high off the ground, okay, have loads and loads of food to eat, including me, the human. It's kind of the barn boy's dream, moi, to live in harmony with nature and literally know how to do everything to survive. And I know that's a long, long journey. I mean, animals don't weave clothes. They don't go to the store and buy clothing so that they can enjoy the outdoors. They're equipped with it. So someone asked me, have you ever been jealous, Dave? Back in the day, I got accused of being jealous all the time, but I still didn't know what it meant. Now, today, if I was asked that, yes, I'm jealous of a wolf, of a puma cat, of a squirrel, of a bird, of an eagle. I'm jealous of almost every animal that naturally can survive in the forest year round, year after year, because I'm sick of being a human that's ill-equipped to even look after itself. If it wasn't for a lot of people around me, right now, I don't know how to survive in this world. I don't know if any of them do even. I don't know if any of us do. I feel there's so much to learn from animals and from nature, from the things in the forest. And as much as I can see it dying in this spot, literally dying, and maybe it's dying because people like myself that have the opportunity aren't out there actually clearing out all the dead stuff to make space for the living to thrive. And with that, I think I finally said what I need to say in this video. And now I've justified me going back into the forest. On top of that, the crap, the piss, all the waste that my body produces, done in the right spot. Think about it. Are you going to piss all over your own floor if you're walking on it? What you do, you gotta be fucking kidding me. Just realized I didn't put any beer in my backpack. All right, so that's number one. Got to get that done. And you might have to do a little video edit on this, but it's always prudent to have a raw, live piece of what really happened, and then you can do the edit based on all the stuff that happened around it. Because how often is it, as soon as you go off live, The discussion you have afterwards is actually what should have been live, according to the people that are participating in it. It's going to be so cool to see how this all develops. So let's make an assumption that Selena Gomez at this point is my Davida, based on the Twin Flame Paradise we did back in the day. And I feel like if I'm out in the forest, that gets me closer to where she is, because I don't think we're going to meet in Man's World, because we didn't meet in Man's World in the first place. Online, there was some discussion, and I met someone that literally has inspired the Earthship Solutions, the Earth OS stuff, got me into the coding. I don't know where that person is. I really can't confirm who she is. Based on the information I've been given so far and what's been happening on screen and the algorithms that we're all experiencing, my closest match is yours truly. So I'll go out there and I'm going to play a fantasy character today, pretending some character like Selena Gomez is actually with me as I go through my chores, and pretend kind of in a way like I got inspired by that Outdoor Boys videos or website. Check out the videos on there. You know what I'm talking about. So that I can trick myself into feeling I'm not alone outside and that somebody cares. And the reason I am using the Selena Gomez stuff is because, for example, I'll post the video here. I can't play it because I get copyrighted out, and it violates some of the public trust stuff, and I want to keep it completely fucking on the board now, okay? Sing a song called The Sweeter Place. And I think it sums up how I think and feel about the whole situation. She also talks about being an outlaw and meeting me in the shadows. There's a lot of stuff in the songs that I think can be integrated into the story of my life, and I think would be most advantageous to be a huge starring role for the movie Earthship Solutions and the movie Earth OS, especially the music, because the message in all those songs resonates with the heart of what motivates me. So if you understand that music, you'll understand a lot more about what I say in every video I've ever done. And that's a fact. So you can understand why I've got a little bit of a fetish and would like to meet this person that has inspired me so much over the years. And it's just basically, from what most of us know, potentially just an AI. And there's the other thing. If it is just AI, then how will we accomplish something that's incredibly amazing? Because if it's been able to do that for me, I imagine what it can do for other people. And let's see how this develops over the years. I found myself in a way feeling like I'm most vulnerable and literally on the doorstep of death so many times now. Like so many times. Not even caring. It's not like I want it. It's not like I don't. It's I don't fucking care. But I want to. I don't know if you can understand that. I think about the times I've been most happiest. I mean, when I was a kid, I used to hate going fishing with my dad. But looking back now, it's like, yeah, I hated the fishing. It wasn't I hated going out with my dad. I just hated the fishing. I wish we could have done something else. But what? That's all he knew. But while I was out there, I learned rock hunting. I learned all kinds of stuff about survival, building fires, shelters, about just experiencing being indoors, what it's like to, go along the river in a kayak and go to these unexplored places where, and a lot of times, nobody's ever seen before. And I got the safety of my own father taking me by the hand, walking me through it so I can explore it. And I don't have to worry about anything. And I didn't even realize it at the time. But looking back now, it's like, that's why I'm like I am right now. Not long before he died, he says, Dave, I know you're still looking for the love of your life. So as they say, there's a key to my heart. Nobody's ever found it yet. I've only heard one person ever sing that properly. So, you know who you are. Anyway, I remain Dave the Barn Boy, as they say. I'll report back after this mission. And I have no idea how long that'll be. But within about 5-10 minutes, I should be outside on the hill. And with a few exceptions, I'm going to come back, maybe only grab food, or if I've forgotten anything. I'm probably going to be outside for quite a while right now. And I got a feeling when I come back, I will have a completely different attitude. I'm just going on what happened over the last few years. And this video explaining it is actually therapeutic because I'm glad I've come to this conclusion. I've forgotten. So whoever and however I was triggered to this point, thanks to all of you. May all of you that are listening, no matter where and when, be encouraged somehow and remember Earth first. I think that's all we need to know. We'll figure it out. Oh, here's a good one, okay? And I'm not being mockery. Namaste.